I'm really pleased to sit down with you, Kim Ades. I'm going to use your last name. I know you, but others don't. You're the president and founder of Frame of Mind Coaching. You're a speaker, and you do a lot of work with coaches around the world, including with many Vistage chairs. I've been coaching for a long time, and a key part of the value people get through Vistage is from coaching. And a key part of being an effective leader, I've come to understand and I have come to see, is being an effective coach. Great leaders are great coaches. So the topic is applicable for any and every leader. Kim, you have a very unique approach to coaching that I find to be extremely effective. In 5 minutes or less, can you share with us the 5 steps in your coaching approach?
5 minutes, I'll talk fast. First, thank you for having me. But yes, let's go. Let's jump in. So interestingly enough, I do have 5 coaching steps, and the first one has nothing to do with anybody else but yourself. So as a coach, before you enter any kind of coaching conversation, the first thing to do is, I would say, I call it check yourself at the door. In other words, take any preconceived notions that you have about the person you're about to coach or the conversation you're about to have, ball them up and throw them out. And make sure you're not going in with any, beliefs around, what they're like, what they're going to say, what you're expecting. Like, go in open, go in cleanly, and go in assuming positive intent. And so that's step number 1. Check your story at the door. Check your story at the door, put it outside the conversation and assume positive intent. Step number 2 is get their story. So very often you're observing people and you think you know what's going on, but you don't unless you ask. And so my advice in step number 2 is get the story. And very often when people give you a story, they're not giving you the whole story. They're giving you a piece of the story. So ask them. You gotta dig. Yeah, you gotta dig, which takes us to step number 3, which is dig under the story, which is really like, if you're having a conversation with someone and you say, how are you? You say, I'm okay, or I'm fine. That's not much of a story, is it? And what you want is the details. So when I look at what are those details, we're looking at who, what, where, when, how, why. So you want all the details, and you even want the details that a person doesn't even bring up or doesn't even mention. So they might say something like, you might say, how was your weekend? And they might say, oh, I was working really hard. I had to get this project finished. I stayed up late. I really wanted to make sure I met my deadline. And, they didn't mention anything about their family. They didn't mention anything else. You might say, well, how did your wife feel about you working late? They didn't bring it into the conversation. And so when you're looking at getting the story, you're looking at getting a really well-rounded view of what's actually going on. Looking at the other players, looking at the impact of what they're telling you, and you're looking to kind of zoom out from what they're saying to get a much broader view, a broader picture, understand the situation clearly, taking into account them, the people in their lives, their relationships, how they're feeling, how it's impacting their physical, mental, spiritual, financial world, etc. So we're just looking at the bigger, broader picture.
Yeah, and I'm hearing you're both zooming out and zooming in, and kind of going in and out like that. To get the big picture and the details. Yeah.
Yes, and I would say to you, a lot of coaches don't spend time here. They don't sit in this spot because they think, I don't have time for that, or these details are irrelevant. And I have to say, details are so relevant because it teaches you about how a person operates, what is important to them, what they prioritize, what their values are, and simply how they're wired. And in order for you to be an effective coach, you need to know that information. All right, step number 3 is, so we have step number 1, check your story. Step number 2, get their story. Step number 3 is dig under the story. Step number 4, and I would call this the apex of coaching, this, without which coaching cannot take place.
Yeah, the most important thing. Yeah.
The most important thing is identify their beliefs and encapsulate. So a person operates the way they do because of the beliefs they have. So if I believe something's going to be hard, I might like dilly-dally. I might not go into it willingly. I might procrastinate. I might feel heavy about it, right? My beliefs will determine how I feel and how I behave. So what we're really after in this coaching conversation is their belief system. And once I'm able to capture their beliefs about any subject, whether it's leadership, teamwork, strategy, partnership, competitors, whatever it is, right? Whatever the subject is, once I'm able to identify the beliefs, my job now is to encapsulate. And encapsulation is essentially being able to capture or articulate their emotional state about whatever subject we're talking about in words that they haven't even used yet. So if I'm able to really understand or demonstrate that I understand another person's emotional state, and they say, yes, that's how I feel, or no, I don't feel that way, I feel more like this, and then I take another stab at encapsulation, once that person knows that I get them, now they're open to coaching. And if I cannot demonstrate that I get them, then they aren't open to coaching.
Yeah. And I'm hearing you want to capture how they're feeling about their belief, the impact of the belief, the impact of what they're confronting through the lens of their belief. Is that right?
Exactly. That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
That's exactly correct. And then step number 5, once we are able to find a belief that we can see clearly plays havoc with them, clearly interferes with their ability to reach their goals, that's when we might gently, politely, lovingly challenge their goals. Challenge their beliefs. And so that's it. Those are the 5 steps. And by the way, challenging is never confrontational. It's always kind.
Yes, I love that. Kim, masterful job explaining the 5 key steps in your model of coaching. An extraordinarily effective method. It's a method that I have benefited from and that I use. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Thank you for having me. Love spending time with you, Jeff. Anytime.
Okay, me too, Kim.